guys, day 3 just ended, and today, instead of doing full VOD reviews, I decided to watch the games ahead of time so I could just point out certain parts of the game and just kind of talk over how they really went without taking up as much time. Now, FlyQuest really did not take a lot of time because they kind of got smashed by T1, and then Fnatic did put up a fight versus Tess, but it was still just their shortcomings still came up, and they lost 2-1. Now, this was expected. You know, everyone expected T1 to win. Everyone expected Tess to win. These are the two teams that are going onto the main stage. I think T1 can feel pretty confident going onto the main stage because even though they looked a little loose versus Astralis, Estral, they definitely cleaned it up versus FlyQuest. And yeah, like there was some issues still technically, but it looked better, and so that's a good sign for them. Meanwhile, for Tess, I want to be honest, it's not looking good. Their bot lane looks really good. Like Jackie Love and Maiko, like they are playing very well, and I think the expectations for them will just continue to rise, and it'll be a huge like advantage they'll have for helping them stay in the main stage and making the bracket stage. But some of the other parts of their play is starting to slip. But let's go over the T1 FlyQuest stuff first. So the big thing with this series was, you know, as usual, Bwipo and Inspired are the mainstay players. Jensen and Busio were having issues against PSG. So these guys have to step it up this time or else it's going to be really over. Bwipo also was like a massive presence against PSG. Like it really did a ton for them. So for him to replicate that against Zeus would be obviously amazing, but pretty unlikely. So yeah, that's why it requires like their mid and support to really step it up. So like Bwipo isn't actually forced in a situation that's going to be too terrible. But what really ended up happening was it's just like it was both their ideas on how to draft for their jungle, and then also the way they're like execute. Like there's just these errors by players individually popping up that just hit the game so hard. So in the first game, no, is it right? 2v2. So in the first game here, you know, they draft Graves, right? They draft Graves. This was terrible. Like, for one, anyone can tell you that drafting Graves into Senna and Azir already feels pretty terrible. Now, this was a little unexpected. Like, I did not expect them to just pick Ornn and literally just full accept that, yeah, we're probably going to go into a lane swap situation or something like that. So we're going to have Ornn. Like, they were literally drafting in preparation. They didn't put themselves in a bad spot because they knew FlyQuest was lane swapping versus PSG. But the Graves was really bad because it's just, again, the pick doesn't really function the best. And against these champions, honestly, would have been better, and I made note of it. Wukong, this would have been a really good pick this game. I mean, especially if you are in a lane swap situation, you know, he can just farm up. You have a good dual lane. You're probably going to draft a tank anyways in top side, so you'll be fine. And generally, like, having AoE knockups against TK, like more AoE presence, great. I did consider Nocturne, but I feel like this is just like not a thing, especially because against Azir, you know, this kind of shit just not great. So really, it seemed like Wukong was just kind of like the best pick that you could really aim for here, especially because there's so many AD jungle bans. But yeah, they went with this, and not great, not great at all. So this pick really forced them in a bad spot because what you're gonna notice is in this game, like, you know, especially as like, you know, if you're playing a carry jungler, you have to farm. Like, there's no world where like you can't just like drop camps because then you get behind and you're less useful. You can't play the game the same way as a you know, as like a Poppy, Sejuani, whatever. So he has to have that mindset no matter what, even if it might like, even if his lanes are like might need help, like he has to be greedy or else it will hurt his game. So what happens is Whippo gets a really good level 2 trade here. Use him, really good. He's low. But then Inspired is already aiming to path it to bot side, which would have been honestly far better in the first place because he would have done 6 camps into a crab, which is his because his bot lane has control. He goes for this surprise top plate, which does work, and I gotta say, it was really well executed. So it's like, okay, my top laner has an advantage. Now I need to play recovery as jungle. And you know, the bot lane, I'll be honest, they're super lucky because if you watch this sequence, like they never warded. They never warded for themselves. And you're gonna look at the XP bar for wait for it. Look at the XP bar for Senna. They just need one more, right? They just need one more creep. And if they get it and they didn't move right away and they could possibly bait this just a little bit longer, or even if Senna turned around and hit this sooner versus doing the Q, honestly, this could have been pretty bad for them. Like, they could have lost their flashes, and that would have been really rough. And if they lost their flashes and they start building the wave outward, who knows? There might actually be, like, Faker TPs before Jensen, and then maybe they can contest the camp, and that could be pretty rough. But the bot lane did super well. And I'm going to put this on... what is this? 4 times speed? Just so I can kind of go over this. But so what happens then at the same time, so bot lane did a really good job. They evaded everything. You're like, oh man, this is going great. Blippo trades like a complete moron. And he has no passive. And already owner is heading towards top side, right? And now he gets zoned. Graves loses his Krugs, which is also terrible. Then he loses his flash because he's trying to help him, but it's like really poorly done. So now Graves is trying to compensate for his top laner, screws himself, loses his Krugs, and he's like, okay, well, that's really bad. So he continues doing his camps, whatever, right? Now he's like, well, I want to contest Grubs, but then the issue is that, oh shit, you know, Zeus is level 6, Whipple's level 5. I can't contest this. There's a ward. He doesn't know there's a ward, but there's a ward there because Jensen didn't ping it. And it's like, okay, well, see ya. And like, he has to go bot. Like, he can't stay top because he needs to keep progressing his camps. Now Whipple's like, oh, shit. And he's dead again. Or not dead again, but like, you know, it's almost like he's dying because in the last sequence, like, he lost the wave. In this sequence, he loses the wave again. And owner gets to take more camps from topside, like all the camps. So now Graves is even further behind. And meanwhile, bot lane's doing pretty well. Mid lane is doing okay, not like incredible, right? And from there, it just snowballs. That's it. It literally just snowballs. And there's nothing FlyQuest can do because Graves is now permanently down. He has to, again, he must do farm. He must do camps. Like, if he does not, he's so screwed. So screwed. But then, like, notice that he's heading towards top in this situation, and Blibble's trying to trade hard into Zeus. And it's, like, semi-working. I mean, Zach always looks a little bit lower HP than he actually is because of his passive, or, like, how he gets health back. But at the same time, you know, his bot lane, who's playing pretty well, Flyke was his bot lane, they all in, they get this guy low, it's like, okay, so he's low. And then they're still drawing pressure. And like, so this is amazing. Like, FlyQuest 2 times, their bot lane 2 times pulls owner, which is really awesome. Like, this, they're actually doing so good this game. And unfortunately, like, so if they are successful on the bot side executing this play, then on the top side, Blippo's already so low, he has no E. He has to Q flash to get this even off. And Inspired needs to actually flash. He needs to, like, I don't know. He needs to, like, literally flash QR. Like, he has to do something like that. But he does a Q that doesn't, it's just too slow. Like, he has to do it real quick. And if he doesn't, it fails. And then at this point, the game's over. That's it. Like, that is literally it. Like, the bot lane finally makes their first mistake. And this is mostly from the fact that, well, they already survived 2 ganks. They know owner is on bot side. And then they step up the contest. And it's just too much. Like they don't even have to really contest the wave that much. They'll never die to a dive as long as Ori has control. And then Masu, like even after this is still fine. Like they're still okay. But then don't fight. Like don't keep fighting. But then Masu does, oversteps, eats shit, and now they kind of lose more control than they should have. And yeah, like I said, at this point, the game is really screwed now. It's just super screwed because they get full grubs. These guys do a TP play, they kill Jensen, and then this is where Jensen starts having zero pressure now. Like he just endlessly dies, can't do anything, and that's it. That's literally it. That's the game. Like they couldn't do anything. Like even this, and this is a common theme you're gonna see by Inspired. When he is behind, he actively looks for chances to sneak around and ambush. And also, this was like a terrible look by Busio, but it is what it is. He looked for it, failed. It is what it is. Inspired like snuck around, and they kind of have an idea that he did this, but it's just like it's an off chance play. Maybe it works, but Fake just goes in before anything even happens. He dies, then he gets caught, then they all die bot because it's like impossible to play this out. And like I said, the game was already over, but now it's like well over. There's no return, and FlyQuest kind of knows this, and it basically stems to, like they essentially lose the game at 17-3. They could have delayed longer, but Blippo engaged here, and if you look, they have no side waves. So like the only thing they can do is ram it in mid, and if they take the inhib, it's actually good for you because like then these guys can actually get XP. So it's actually not the worst. But he goes in, kills himself, kills everyone, and that's the game. That was literally the first game for this series. And then it gets worse because then you get into the second game, and if you look at how they draft again, this is fine. They take a Nautilus, take a Varus, this is perfectly fine. They take a Zir, but then they take Wukong into the Sejuani, which to me just feels pretty weird, especially when Poppy's up and they already have like 3 forms of engage at this point, like 3 forms of actually like being able to get on top of people. And if you take Poppy, it's pretty good. Like they have one frontliner right now, and if this guy gets Poppyard, they have nothing. So I was really confused on why they didn't just take Poppy here. They took Wukong, which just doesn't really feel good, and then they threw a Gragas in, which honestly, they could have just played Cassante. They really could have just played Cassante. Like it's really not that big of a deal. Like if they had Poppy Cassante with these 2 DPS picks, and like they're really good at being able to deal with what's happening here. But they do this like weird mesh of picks. And it's not like T1 did anything surprising at all. There was nothing surprising at all from what they did. And they do a lane swap, right? They do a lane swap. But it just, the reason why it goes so poorly is because, one, T1 was actually smart. So look at what happens here. So Zeus shows here, right? He pings a ward, so he knows that they're already aiming to do something up here. And since they're so strong with these 3 champions, they actually poke their head here. He sees no one is mid. So most likely either someone's covering here or everyone's topside, right? One of those 2 options. T1 finds this guy, chunks him, he has the base, and then while it's very obvious, like Zeus has scouted everything out. Like he scouted out both wards, he knows what's happening, and they see this invade, and guess what? He's coming late, and this guy gets to attack him. So Inspired's like, okay, this is already not the best start. And then Jensen's like, okay, I probably need to go join them. Again, Azir's not the best in these situations, but sure, he's gonna go try to join them. Unfortunately, the Ashe comes up from bot lane, and now he's getting pinched. So now he's screwed. And once he's screwed, these 2 guys are gonna run up here. And that's it. Like the game gets completely screwed at that point because now they're gonna get into this fight, and this fight, you know, I'll say right now, like T1's champions are way better at just doing these early fights. Asu had to like shove wave 2 in base and go bot if he could, but he couldn't really. I guess he didn't either do it or he did 3 waves and then based. And then he ended up actually staying, which is like really bad because now Casante's just living for free. And here's the kicker. Because Inspired died, he had to go bot. Like, he literally had to go do his bot camps because even though he sees Sejuani going up, the reality is that if Sejuani comes down here with their push and he's doing these camps, by the time he does these camps and comes bot, yeah, he's going to run into these guys. Like, all these guys. And he just can't risk it. Like, he's playing Wukong. He literally cannot lose those camps or else his game is super over. So he had to prioritize going bot first to get camps. And then again, it's not like he can stay to defend any kind of dives, because if he does, he's playing Wukong. It's really bad for him. So once again, like, the way that they drafted for jungle and some of the kind of the picks they chose, like, just makes things awkward. They scout him out. They go for the dive. Whippo apparently doesn't have body slam. I don't know how this is possible. He doesn't have body slam for this situation. Especially because also he's using his W. So like, he should have his W up when this is happening, not like using it to like do this unless like it's gonna get them like levels, which it doesn't. And then so when this guy goes in, like, he should get hooked, he should get body slammed, and maybe he has to burn his flash to get out. He probably lives, but he probably has to burn his flash to get out. Doesn't happen. He goes and trades it 1-for-1, but Kalista got 2 kills. And Casante's getting full XP. It's not even shared. He's getting literally full solo XP. That's not good. That's really bad. So T1 naturally swaps into topside, right? And it's like, okay, well, we're going to swap in the topside. We're going to get our grubs. And this is the next like event that just kind of ruins the game. So this is fine. Like, them getting grubs in the end, you can't contest it anyways. This is actually fine. This is really strong. This is okay. This next part is where FlyQuest loses the game. He has the decision to either go into his bots, go into T1's bot side and look for stuff and do something, or he should base and run top and defend this and let them 1v1 bot. And it is what it is if you have to share XP. He has to do that. If he does not do this, then he needs to stay bot and actually like keep it together, you know, like get whatever you can out of it. Maybe your top laner can like trade really hard into Zeus, and then maybe do like your Gragas gets another kill or something. I don't know. Something like that, right? Watch what happens. Wukong like pinks the bot jungle, then he's late to going top, and naturally like Talia just wave skips. Like, Azir could also wave skip. So Jensen and Inspired, both these guys are not even thinking about helping top, like, in this situation yet. These guys are just left on their own. So they're here first, and Wukong is the one who's covering, but he's late. So now he's topside, and guess what? If he's topside, and keep in mind, he could have done this Gromp, he could have gone and like fought this guy, or he could have just been here sooner, so then this is not really a play. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And now because of that, he has to clear down. Again, he's playing a carry jungler. He must clear camps. If he doesn't clear camps, doesn't get his level 6, he's screwed. Also, he needs to see where the enemy dual lane pops out. You know, they could go top, they could go bot. You know, you're not 100% sure yet. And if you look at the timers, you're going to see that the grubs is coming up in 220 and the giants come up in 3 minutes. So most likely going top. And so they pop out here. So now you know, you're confirmed. So now Wukong finishes the Krugs and he needs to come top ASAP. What does he do? He does his red. Now keep in mind, it's already a little too late. By the time he's hitting the Krugs, it's already a little too late. Like, once he sees them, where is it? Once he sees them here, he could in theory peel off the Krugs and shoot himself straight top. But keep in mind, you know, we're in a situation where he's not level 6. So he's not level 6, so he's gonna be like the most useful compared to a Sejuani level 6, a Kalista level 6. So they're kind of depending on the Gragas TP to save them. So he's going to try to min-max doing bot camps, and then Gragas spares them topside with the TP. But it comes super late. Like, Gragas has to TP sooner. So it's not like it's entirely uninspired. In the end, you know, he can go top before doing Krugs, but that's going to hurt his game. And then he's still going to be in the same spot where he's like not really doing much, and then T1's always ahead of him. So he's doing the right thing, even though it looks terrible. But the Gragas has to TP sooner. It's not like there's no bot turret even, right? There is a bot turret, but Wukong's already down here, so Wukong could easily just cover the bot turret. And Wukong will at least get a little bit more farm and stuff like that. But he TP'd really late. He should have channeled his base, he should have gotten his mana back. And so FlyQuest is just doing a terrible job at just reacting to like these plays overall. Like, Azir moves second again because he has no help. Like, literally no help. Like, he's pushing, kind of needs a base, sort of. She doesn't need a base? No, not really. But like, he's clearing the wave, and like, they're hovering mid, so it's not like he can just fight on it. Like, and yeah, I mean, he's second, but like, this actually was possible to defend if Gragas was here with full mana, and then they're not going to dive, and then everything's okay. But they just did a really bad job at like helping each other, literally helping their bot lane. And then they tried to overforce a fight, and Kalista picked up more kills, and now the game's over. That was it. And then he died again. But the rest of the game at this point for FlyQuest just kind of goes into really inspired, just running into side and just like kind of creating ambush plays. Like, that's literally all he does after this. Like, if we go forward, like, you're gonna see this kind of play here where he's coming, he's like doing his blue, sneaks around some wards, goes straight top. They fight. He even has to burn his flash to make this work, but they kill him, right? You're gonna see him again. He's in topside. He's messing with this guy. You know, you go into this situation here. No, we're going straight into bot. Fighting him. Almost get him. You know, this is kind of like what they do the entire time. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because repeatedly, you know, T1 is getting a 2-1 lane control. So it's already like their advantage over FlyQuest. And once they like hit the 20-minute mark, you know, then they can actually start pressuring this more. They have Herald, so they have another like play to just, you know, pump out to hit more turrets. It's just you can only do so much on FlyQuest side to kind of get something back over time. But if you're like, once the plays stopped working on Faker and they were going for Zeus, it's too difficult. Like, they can't kill him. Like, things are not happening, and the game is just like impossible to play. And that was the FlyQuest series. Like, you can see here. Where is it? See this part here where he dies? Again, it's a similar principle where it's like, look where Wukong is. They actually have a ward on the back that spots him. And even though he thinks he's being cute, trying to like find a way like in, kind of goes back out the wrong way, and then they just clip him and kill him. And that was pretty much Inspired's like game at this point. So overall, for me with FlyQuest, I feel like their jungle picks were not good. They did not help their bot lane correctly in game 2. And all in all, they just can't have these mistakes. Because they're not a really big like ramping team in terms of like creating fights. So if they can't fight their way back in, and like they have to kind of out strategize, if they fall apart early, it's really hard to climb back. So that was the Fly series. MVP of this game, easily. Here we go. Like, we're doing MVPs, you know. The series. For sure, as Kyria, like, this guy killed it. Absolutely killed it. And then this one, like, you know, it's like Zeus and Owner, because in the end of the day, like, this is pretty much what the entire game was like based on. And then for the series, I'm not 100% sure, honestly. It actually, it's not Zayas. It's not Faker, even though Faker actually did decent. It's probably like Owner at this point. It's either Owner or Kyria, like one of these two. These guys did great. They worked well together. They used the map pressure, and yeah, all in all, those are really easy series for T1 to win. And if we push this into, you know, the Test versus Fnatic one, this is a little bit different in that I think the worries I have for Tests are popping up where I feel like they're not exactly the smartest team. Like, at least I find some of their players to not be relatively that smart about the game. And it's really hampering them. I mean, Tien is looking like his playoff form, which was bad. 369 looks like just okay. Like, not like incredible, just okay. And he needs to be incredible for them to win versus like the top end teams. And Cream is doing fine. I would say that Cream is doing fine. You know, it's his first international tournament. You know, it's not like he has a lot of years of play on his like hands compared to like some of these other mids. And like I'll show in the first game like how I think about this. Like in the first Fnatic game, you know, Fnatic does a blind invade bot, and it kind of works in the end. Well, I mean, it semi-works. Let's say that it semi-works. But the big thing that happens with it is like, you know, they lose all their HP, all this stuff happens. But if you look at how this lane is going already, so LeBlanc was able to get XP, Silk XP, so she's level 2 already, right? He also is missing so much HP already compared to LeBlanc. Like, LeBlanc has 2 pots, and this is her HP. This guy has 1 pot left, and this is his HP. He's already screwed. Like, I don't know if anyone's played, like, if you play against even just like a reasonable, like, masters, like a GM level player, they probably will recognize that, oh, this is like a huge advantage for me. I'm gonna pressure you, right? So Cream can't really do a lot. Like, it's just not a good, like, even this, if you just look at this, you're just like, oh, like, what do I do? Like, I literally can't play the game. And that's true. Like, Ari literally cannot play the game based on these conditions. And surprisingly enough, he actually does a pretty good job. Like, even after the fact, like, if you go forward on these situations, oh, so this was great of them to be able to survive this. Like, these guys didn't die, pressured this guy out, only lost flash, and got his flash. Huge, really, really big for Tien. But if you go forward, and like, there's not gonna be like a ton happening initially. But if you go forward, even up to this point here, and we can ignore 369. Like, I mean, like, he's making a play, and it almost works. And obviously, you know, he just kind of misses his 2 Qs at the end. He's also fighting Oscar on a timer where they know Razork is top. And this is actually a common occurrence, by the way, in this game. Humanoid did pretty well in this series, but he got a lot of freebies from like these, like, him just roaming up. And he just gets a couple freebies, and so now he has a kill, and he had the advantage already over Ari. That's really rough. But if you notice, Ari's only down 7. Like, in that situation she was in, there's not a lot of players who actually would be able to manage that. Like, it's really, really rough. And he did not, it's not like he got like a ton of help either around mid to save himself from this too. So he did pretty well, you know, for all things considered. But yeah, this guy gets a kill. You know, these guys trade really well. Like, even with the poly, he still just does way too much damage and just forced his full sums out, which is just impressive. And a lot of this game is going to be entirely on like Jackie Love and Maiko's backs, honestly. Like, literally, these guys did so much for them. And, you know, they died before the Ari can move, which is rather sad, to be honest, because if they waited, you know, maybe this wave dies, you know, maybe the Ari has to sack the wave even, but they would kill them without having to like have that situation be what it was. But they went for it. It is what it is. And all in all, you know, from this, like, even just game one, if you're just looking at it, Oscar did a fine job. Oscar didn't die. You know, a lot of like general like good feelings about how you like think like Fnatic might perform is going pretty well. Doing good, doing so. They're getting shit on. This was kind of expected. They're balling getting shit on, pretty expected. But Tien, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I want you guys to look. This is a very like this happens often. So look, he's moving in, and you know they're contesting forward, and I get it. But also, technically, they know LeBlanc's on the timer to move down, and he starts contesting the ward like they're going to be able to force them out, and he just dies. And then Jackie like it's like, well, I'm going to kill Noah at least, which was good. It's just he also dies, and now LeBlanc has 2 kills, and this is not from Ari, by the way. This is literally stems from LeBlanc just being able to move on side on timers in which his teammates so happen to be fighting on that. So now LeBlanc is coming into his lane 2-0, and like there's just nothing he can do. He gets like a nice pick. He didn't even go bot. He went mid. That was really nice by Cream. And if we like push this further into this Grubs fight, this is actually winning for Fnatic. And yeah, Fnatic fumbled it. And this is like, and it's entirely on Noah. I'll say that right now. This fight is entirely on Noah because LeBlanc has TP. She can join this fight. Look where Cream is. Cream has no R, no TP, and he's all the way down here. It's going to take him like at least 15 seconds to join this fight. I think. 10 to 15. So look, Bubble's gone. They're hitting. TP's coming up. You backtrack just initially. Diego has no flash. Now, what would happen if Noah, instead of walking into him, was more prepared to run this way? I'm just curious. Like, Noah is running back, and in theory, they could fully abandon this and fight on the TP if they really wanted to. But personally, I feel like fighting forward just makes so much more sense. Like, once he goes in, oh, I don't know. Especially because he has purple R, so if he purple R's onto them and they get latched, you're gonna fight hard into them real quick. And it requires Noah to actually think about it. Otherwise, Noah's just doing a play where he's just gonna run into Cassante, do absolutely nothing because Cassante's just on top of him. And then LeBlanc's using all of her spells on Cassante, who kind of like nullifies some of it. And magically, Fnatic don't win the fight. Tess wins the fight. And that stems again from just how Noah played it. Like, I think Oscar and Razork actually had the right idea. Like, otherwise, like, this guy's gonna what? He's gonna R into this guy, he's gonna W. He's gonna W people out, then R, and then now it's like, this is just way worse. Like, way worse of a situation. Like, yeah, sure, you're Blanc and other guys are, like, out here, but it just doesn't do anything. So, that I was not too happy about. And then you go a little bit further to the 1430 mark. And here I'm like, why doesn't Cassante just go mid? You know, 369, like, you guys are playing for Herald, you're playing for top. 369 could just be mid. You sack just a little bit bot lane. Just a little bit bot lane. And if he's here, you know, if she's hitting, you can maybe even press this a bit more. And then you have TP soon, so you're going to be sacking this briefly, but it's not really the end of the world. He kind of creates a situation where he becomes a play, and then they TP to try to help the play, but it just turns horrible. Like, I mean, keep in mind, Humanoid does outplay this guy, which, like, you know, great for him. You're like, you know, this right here. Man, beautiful. Rough. But at the same time, like, you know, as much as, like, it's awesome to see, like, Humanoid, a Fnatic be able to make this side play and kind of, like, get something going, guess what's happening the entire time? Lucian Nami's just dominating the mid lane. Like, there is nothing they can do. Ludo can't tank it. Aphelios can't tank it. Sinshao can kind of tank it, but it's not the best. And they just need to, like, define a timer in which, like, LeBlanc and them can, like, kind of defend successfully in their own jungle, but it's just, it's just not happening. It's just not happening. And so here, you know, LeBlanc has a TP flank, but again, the biggest issue here is that LeBlanc cannot just full commit into the Lucian because he'll kill her. And if he has flash, she can never commit the distortion on top of him. Because if he flashes the distortion and he chases her, she's dead. So it's just one of those situations where it's like until Lucian loses flash, or like he's like distracted by something else, it's hard for her to like commit into it. So all this happens, the game progresses and we get to like the 21-minute mark, and it's just, I don't know. This one was just super weird because 369 pushed out top, right? And so again, these guys have infinite mid push. So you're gonna wait one more mid push to go in, right? Like typically you would wait one more mid push. Cream has TP, so be it. But more importantly, they don't know where LeBlanc is. Like they know LeBlanc just did this wave, and she could base. I mean, she could do another wave, or she could be heading straight. And so once this fight is happening, if Humanoid was running this way, like actually paying attention to this and started running this way, and he was coming through this section here, this is like way worse for Tess. Because LeBlanc would have been here. She already would have been pressuring this situation here. And now these guys can kind of like fully fight it out. And Cream is pushing mod. Like, yeah, Cream can like TP here and maybe he can like fix this situation. But for me, I feel like he's just kind of rushing things. Because I could easily just wait another wave on mid and I'd be fine. And maybe it's just the fact that they believe that, like, Aphelios is so weak, like, we really care. And that actually just might be the case. But it's a pretty tight timing by 369 to go for this. It's a good bubble. And yeah, LeBlanc can't really like do anything in this case. If she starts from there, she can't do anything. And so she does nothing, and then Sion kind of just like kills himself. And then she kind of like, Humanoid goes for it all, but it also kills himself. So yeah. And then from there, like, there's not really much else to really talk about. Like, again, most of it just kind of stems from the Lucian Nami having full control. And you push further, into game 2, and this is where Fnatic whips out the Camille, and it's like, okay, that's pretty sick, right? Like, we got Camille, and they don't lane swap. Like, so personally, like, the lane swap would be pretty good against Camille, but at the same time, they're really trusting the Rumble matchup into bot as well. And my favorite thing to watch from this is that people are going to say that, wow, Humanoid really, like, beat Cream hard, didn't he? It's like, pretty sure Cream beat himself. Like, so like in the first game, he did really well at recovering a really terrible situation. This game, he actually completely outplays Humanoid in the first 5 minutes. So look, he has bone plating. Humanoid doesn't know this, didn't test for it, so he eats a little worse trade, right? This progresses. This progresses. Now look at this. So he's going to use W to actually help assist his push to get level 2. Then he's going to wiggle between the range minions, and because he knows that like Humanoid wants to use W on the range to help get level 2 back, get the push back. And he out-wiggles it. And he gets an auto on him. It's like, okay, that's pretty awesome. Then he gets another W on him. Now we're fighting for level 2. Level 2, both at the same time. So it does even out, but so far he's been winning the trades, right? And then, whoo, sticks it to him. And so now Ari has full control. Ari is doing incredible. Cream is just like, yeah, he's doing really, really good. And so this leads to both with the bot advantage and then the mid advantage for them to be able to actually pressure the red, which is huge for TN. So now, awesome, really good start for them. But then what happens is you're going to see like this progresses. So Cream, at this point, they know Razork's on top side because of how the way he did his camps. He started top side, they know that 100%, so he should be top side to do more. Cream decides to try to hump and even uses Charm, and Humanoid sees it, and then he dies. So even though Cream is outplaying individually in the lane, it's some of these timers that you'll see by like players that just completely ruins it. And Jean like just kind of saw a really good opening here. Awesome, no cleanse on Jackie Love, which he honestly, you probably should have cleanse, but like they're literally playing fully for lane by having heal, and it turns into that. So the game will progress, and a lot of this is going to be surrounding around like sort of mid lane a little bit in the beginning, and you know, these two are trading. You know, this gets like really close. Oscar does a really good job with his E. 369 almost dies. You know, it's good stuff, right? And then Maiko and then Jungle, you know, they're coming up from mid side, right? Actually, they came up from bot side because their bot lane is starting to grow the push. And then they are able to find a nice pick on Humanoid, who doesn't have flash, so they punish him. Now, Cream is back in it. So Humanoid, you know, he got like what he had last time. You know, it was looking a little rough, especially because he got a freebie before on Tien, and now Cream is back in it. Except the problem is, even though Cream is back in it, and he also completely is outplaying Humanoid in these trades. This was stupid. I don't know why he kept autoing just for the sake of like, even the guy has E on it, but it was outplaying, and then this happens. He just oversteps, doesn't expect the Q, and he dies. And so now Humanoid is an absolute monster yet again. So, yeah. Cream does well, but his discipline isn't there yet. And if he was more disciplined in these situations, he would look really good. But he's not there yet. He's young. He's not there yet. It's very common to see that be the case. And, you know, from here on out at this point, a lot of this is just going to be... It's just going to be the Jun making a lot of good plays, Oscar and Humanoid having a lot of pressure on the side, and then Razork's just kind of moving around the map. This is pretty much what's going to happen for like the rest of the game. So if we go forward, you know, like I said, it's kind of hard when like your signs are perma losing, and even in this case here where, you know, like Ari is like almost initiating a awkward situation, and then after this, like this is done, like the play is done, especially because like there's members moving up and they're still recovering, but they kind of overextended and they die, and that's partially on Cream. That's also on 369 to not just be like, hey, by the way, this is probably pretty bad because now he's 0-3, and then again move forward, very difficult, but really. Like this next play, and then there's one more other play where things get like way worse really quickly. Like this is them trying to make a side play and surprise. Cream actually had to use R one more time to get a charm, and even if he got it, like, you know, he might just die to turret. It might be really close, but they go for it. It's a disaster. Doesn't turn out well. You know, they lose more control, and this is like the one situation that's actually good for them. Because in this situation, you know, if Fnatic just holds this, and then they do, it's the same thing with S2 in the last game, was that if they just push another mid wave and wait a little bit, these guys can't hold this. Like they can't defend it. Like they have to defend their mid. So it's just them being impatient, and they kind of run themselves into Tess, who just kind of kill them, and it's a big win for them, but still not great. And move a little bit more forward, and then the game officially ends. I believe it is here. This is where the game officially ends. At this point, can Tess win? Technically, yes, if they fight well, but their timer's like almost up at this point. Like things are getting pretty bad, and they have to win this fight. Unfortunately for them, they know Jean is in here. They don't do anything to kind of correctly guess where he is. I mean, they basically throw Xin W and then the Renata R. It hits 4 people. They're super screwed. They have to run. 369 jumps in. And yeah, it's just... it's just so screwed. And like for 369, he just needs to leave. He can't go forward. It's just not gonna work. But he goes forward, he dies, and that's it. Like that's it. Like that was really one of their last timers to actually get something back, and it didn't work. And now it's just they can't do anything. You know, they literally can't do anything. So for me, the MVP of this game was Jun. This guy did it. This guy was really on top of shit. Like, you know, multiple times he called people out. And yeah, he did a killer job. And Humanoid also did good. Then finally we go to the third game. The last game, right? And with this one, you know, this one was kind of stupid to me because it was obvious that, like, from the draft, and also I don't think they should have picked, like, Xayah. They should pick Jinx. Like, if you're going to do something like this, they should pick this. But from the draft, it's super obvious if you look at the matchups, like, they want a lane swap. Like, I don't think you really want to play Zac into Renekton, like, just straight laning phase. I don't think you really want to play Varus Ashe as Xayah Rakan. Like, Rakan can't do anything. He'll get farmed. So it was really obvious they're going to do this, and 369 and the Duel Lane were already topside just to get control. And so Fnatic, again, they just kind of blindly run in as 4. So, like, of course, Tess is, like, well ready for this, right? And Cream jumps into this guy. I don't know why they moved this way. They actually could have moved this way, technically, and just pinched him, made him flash. And keep in mind, Zac is bot lane. So Zac's not even involved in this play. Zac is bot lane, which also could be an issue. And unfortunately, he fails this, and it sucks because, honestly, if he just flashes, they're fine. Like, I know he's trying to, like, min-max the situation, but it kind of makes it a lot worse. So he dies, Zac doesn't pull the wave, and the dual lane's gonna head bot. So no XP, like, it's not as nearly as bad as you expected. And now we're back in standard lanes. And in standard lanes, this is terrible. Like, Razork takes the interesting approach to actually do the Krugs, which I thought was, like, not bad. But now we're in standard lanes where Tess just isn't an advantage. Like, they just have an advantage. And keep in mind, Cream has no flash. Humanoid has flash. So again, Humanoid has an advantage in the beginning. Outside of game 2, game 1 and 3, Humanoid has a starting advantage for his matchup. So this will progress. And, like, you know, Oscar will almost get this guy's flash. Again, 369 not having the best series at all. Like, you're really going to hope that he's going to play better, but, like, he's not really having the best series. And Tessa's dual lane is just giving it to them. The entire time, they're just giving it to them. And, you know, by the time we get into a situation where, you know, where, like, they actually are going to commit to a play, and it's not till right here. So keep in mind, multiple times, like, Razork had opportunities to go bot, and these guys were really good at making sure, like, that was just not really a possibility while still pressuring. So these guys are literally killing it. They're doing super well. Cream, at the same time, if you notice how, like, he's doing the trades, which I haven't really shown at all. If you notice Cream, this guy, oh my god, he does this all the time. The W cancel with this shit. Talia can't do anything about this. Like, it's not like some other matchups where you might be able to stall out the Trist. He's just able to go straight into Talia after the W pump. He does this over and over again, and this guy kills it. This guy kills it this game with how he played. And so your Renekton's doing pretty well, though it's like some of the trades are a little iffy. Your bot lane is killing it, your mid lane is doing great. And overall, it seems pretty good. Meanwhile, the Maokai is kind of just running in, and this was really dangerous because this actually could have been a lot worse for them. But thankfully, somehow he doesn't die. Like, they all in him, they get a pull, he's not dead. And so this is the only issue I have with this situation, is that if Humanoid jumps off here and goes for him, he's dead. And then these guys most likely will flash over the wall to chase him, because this guy's going to DPS you from behind. But instead, Humanoid actually goes on these guys, and so he has one option, and one option only, really, is that praying to God someone can actually hit Jackie Love and he can W. But Jackie Love has flash. And Jackie Love's damage surprises everyone, and they fully turn it, and the game's over. Like, that was it. That was the game. Like, that's crazy. And don't get me wrong, it's not like, you know, when I say game over, typically when teams are like this good, when these kinds of situations happen, especially for League, it's really hard to fight back through it. And keep in mind, this is also Tilia's what? I think this is Tilia's second time looking into bot. So again, they've had jungler looking into bot multiple times, they've had enemy mid looking into bot multiple times, and yet they're still alive. Like, holy shit, these guys are really killing it. And, you know, finally they made, like, you know, Fnatic's like, okay, these guys don't have sums, let's get this shit. And he R's the Ashe, and they go on him. And so the weirdest thing to me in this situation is that he's knocked up, and Noah doesn't pump this guy. This was the weirdest situation to me, because for me, if you throw R as Razor, you don't have to throw W. He can throw R and actually move into this guy, and this is your primary target. But for whatever reason, decided to kill the Ashe. So even though Jackie Love is actually dead, and finally, after like 4 attempts on their lives, the 5th attempt's gonna work. Except they went on the wrong guy. They literally went on the wrong guy. And so then Noah was like, okay, I'm gonna try to pump this guy. I'm gonna try to do better. And then he ends up popping R because he's like actually trying to find something. It just doesn't turn out the way they want to. It just doesn't. And at this point, you know, for the rest of the game, it's just kind of like how things are gonna go. You know, Humanoid is gonna have definitely a worse game 3 compared to his 1 and 2. And that partially stems from the fact that he just didn't get free advantages. Now, don't get me wrong, he definitely finished and used his advantages pretty well. It's just he didn't get, like, this, like, you know, some of the things that he really wants to happen, like, happen. Especially when he just gets random roam kills. Again, Tien just being an idiot, nothing to look at. This one was killer, by the way. Like I said, Cream, even though people will shit on Cream, this guy, oh my god. Reads it, jumps right in, he has Merc, so he just can go right through it. Dead. Insane. I mean, this guy really showed that those, like, other 2 games, that's not him. So, awesome shit. Yeah, like, it's just... yeah, it just goes this way. And like I said, the bot matchup is terrible, so Fnatic really needed the lane swap. They just did a terrible job with the lane swap idea. If they executed it better, if they had some better wards, or even if they, like, were able to manage to find that their enemy's going to be top first so they can stay bot, that would have been fine. That would have been perfectly fine. But they didn't. Or they draft Jinx and they never go this kind of mesh where, like, they're actually in big danger, you know? And then this happens a ton too. Like 369 just sees, like, opportunities where Humanoid doesn't have flash, and he kind of just jumps on top of him and kills him. Like, that literally happens like two more times at least. And Sejuani can't really hit her R's in this game too. That's also a big thing. And, you know, we're gonna progress more. We got this situation here. This is another situation where Sejuani doesn't hit her R. You know, like, they're doing what Fly does, right? Like, and it's a pretty common thing. Like, when you're losing, you go into side, right? You go into side, you make some plays, and then hope you pray to God it works, right? And he misses the R, so this guy actually isn't, like, perma CC'd. He gets his Q, so he gets a bunch of healing. So he draws a ton of time from them when this guy should probably just be dead right away. And then because of that, you know, Tess kind of cleans up, and, you know, again, push further. Tester just kind of taking over the map. But it's... the problem I have when I watch Tess is just, I just feel like they still take too many, like... They make too many mistakes, especially, like, map-wise, that just aren't befitting of them. Like, here, you will have Cream just kind of press on this guy. You need to get the mid-wave. Your Maokai's, like, kind of already in here. And yet, yeah, in theory, like Cream should never die here because like he shouldn't actually lose this timer. But was it also necessary to like pressure in this way too? Like he's trying to min max it, which is amazing. Like if you can min max situations, the game feels literally unwinnable. Literally unwinnable. But also the game is also unwinnable if he just eats the wave. This wave comes in. There's no mid T2, so they have to cover this. This is free. This guy's already going to shift this way. The game's like, they can't do anything about the map. This is the only chance. The only chance is to invite an opportunity of loss. And that's what he did. And then it gets even funnier, by the way, because like they kill him, and this is Renekton's TP. Renekton has this much HP left, right? They're all here ready to fight, and this moron, he has no flash. I believe he tries to flash for it, cancels Renekton, and kills himself. Like, are you kidding me? So, a lot of this will just like go down this way for Fnatic, where like again, like here it's like the third time that 369 is on top of the flashless Tilia. She can't do anything, and it is what it is. It literally it is what it is, and that's the series. That's literally the series. So when I watched this series compared to the FlyQuest series, so the FlyQuest versus T1, a lot of it came down to just some small mishaps, and they're just not a good team at like helping each other all around still. So people kind of just lose out when they shouldn't, and it just didn't work well. And for Fnatic versus Tess, honestly, it was a huge bot gap. I mean, that was like one of the big things. The bot gap was massive. Then like Cream was still very good. Like he was still very good. It's just Scream was very good. They just didn't use Humanoid the best. Like it still was not the best for this part here. And then of course it was like the lane swaps, right? Like the lane swap ideas just did not turn out well. But this one, this bot gap, is a huge reason why this series just turned out the way it did. And looking into like the main stage, I don't know how confident I am in Tess. Like I said, I think 369 and Tien, these are the guys that I was worried about going into the tournament, and they kind of still are. I'm not really sure if they're gonna. I hope they turn it around. This guy won't. Okay, I'll say this. This guy's not turning it around. He may turn it around, but if he doesn't, it's always going to be an issue. And the thing is, it's not like they're always guaranteed that their bot lane is just going to consistently win every single time. And as you can tell, Cream is good, but he's like iffy. He needs time. Like, he needs discipline, right? He just doesn't have that yet. So he's not there yet. And so this is like, if he's there, if he shows up, if Cream shows up, I think it's doable. Because their bot lane is killing it, right? Like their bot lane is good to go for Tess, right? For Tess, their bot lane's killing it. If he shows up, I think they're fine. And if Tien can just like reduce some of his inting. Because in the end of the day, you know who also ints a little bit? Owner kind of ints. Owner ints too. It's not like this guy's perfect at playing the game. And the majority of junglers kind of do outside of Canyon. And then Jean, like these guys are definitely like a step above most other people. But for the most part, everyone ints. Maybe you toss in Inspired here too, because it's not like he was like, he was trying to make plays. That's just why it looked like he was dying a ton. But generally, like he's not making egregious like mistakes. Well, actually, he did make one in the first game, or sorry, in the second game technically. But that's more of like a team thing. But yeah, like he just has to get his shit together a little bit. And for top lane, like that he just has to be very careful, because if 369 does not do well, there's Zeus, there's Keen, and then there's Bin. And we already saw Genji was capable to like recover their bot lane effectively on their own. and give them space to play, even though they're not the best. And so hopefully, you know, 369 can do that as well, especially with lane swaps where his champion pool actually is better because lane swaps are a thing. If it was not so much. So that covers day 3 and the main qualification matches for the major region matchups, because now there's no more major region matchups until main stage. And hopefully, like I said, FlyQuest can beat PSG. And honestly, I don't if it's Fnatic allowed, either or. Like, I think either or would be fun. Thanks for watching.